Hey guys, before I begin, I just want to say I'm really sorry for the recording because I recorded this and then I listened to it and I did a lot of editing. I realized that I sound like I'm half asleep. Yeah, just really bad. So I'm gonna work on it and I promise the next one will be better. I also realized that this video might not be useful for a lot of people, probably just for people who have started digital painting and have been at it for some time. I'm planning on doing some videos in the future for people who are more beginners, or maybe some videos on art fundamentals like perspective and form and lighting and color. But hopefully you'll get through this okay, and I promise the next one's gonna be better. My name's Keitran. I'm a concept artist and illustrator, and I've been meaning to start a YouTube channel for a really long time now, but I never really got around to it, or every time I was about to, I'd get nervous about it. I have no idea why. It's the most bizarre thing, but here I am now. I just thought, the hell with it. I'm just gonna do it, and if it turns out horrible, then oh well. Um, so here I have a painting I did, and I saved all the layers. I didn't record it this time, but in the future, I'm hoping that I will. But I saved all these layers, and I thought I'd go through my process and talk about what I was thinking about when I was at certain stages in the painting, and just the techniques I was using, and just ways to go about painting that might help you if you're into these type of paintings. Yeah, so let's just jump right into it. So here's the first stage. This is the roughen stage, and in this stage you want to keep your brushes really big. You want to make big bold brush strokes, and you want to choose really vivid colors. The last thing you want to do is start focusing on detail, and I'm sure you've all heard this lots of times if you've seen other art videos, but I mean, they're all right. You want to keep it super loose, almost abstract in a way. When I'm doing this stage, I'm looking at sort of the abstract shapes, and of course I'm keeping in mind to some degree the subject I'm painting, but I'm not that concerned about it. Right now I'm more concerned about are the general colors I want on the page and what type of feeling I'm getting from this environment, because that's the most important thing in an environment, right? You want to set the mood. What would it feel like if you were in this environment? I sort of thought these colors were good. I thought that they kind of showed what I was going for. At this stage, I think it's kind of difficult for viewers to see what I'm going for, really, because I have it in my head. The artist has it in their head, but from an outside perspective, for those of you who don't come from an art or design background, or you don't do these sort of paintings at all, it's hard to see what this right here does for you in the process of painting. And so you can see that it kind of looks like just random brush strokes. I mean, it's not random, but it looks like it because it's just so rough. And that's because at this stage you want to represent your subject. So I don't want to go in, I don't want to paint these rocks, these cracks. I don't want to paint, this is supposed to be a waterfall, and you'll see that later on, but I don't want to fill all those details in because they slow down your workflow. And if you spend a lot of time and energy filling in the cracks and all this stuff, you'll miss the bigger picture. And really, in an environment, you want to get the whole feeling of the environment. The textures of grass, moss, and cracks in the rocks are secondary. They're not important, and you don't need those things to understand what the environment is about. And neither does a viewer, even if they're not, even if their background is in art. So a way to really see what the piece is all about is to zoom out so that you can look at the whole image. So here I'm going to zoom out. So when I'm at the stage, I'm probably painting at this size. So I have this big on my screen and I'm painting. And then maybe every 30 seconds or so, maybe even less, I'll zoom out to about this level, maybe even less. But this is to see, okay, I've got these colors on the page. What are they doing for me? You know, is this gonna work? Do I want to move forward with this painting? And if you're not happy with your painting at this stage, or sort of where it's going, you don't want to continue, because you're just gonna end up with a painting you're not happy with. So let's go to the next layer. Oh, by the way, I don't name my layers, although I should. It'd probably help with organization a lot, but oh, and also when I'm painting these, I do it pretty much on one layer or two layers, maybe sometimes three layers. But as soon as I'm happy with it, I'll collapse it down and then I'll just, you know, paint on top of that. So here's the next layer. So again, just pretty much the same stuff. I'm just filling out more of the page. I was feeling like I was missing some things over there. Like there was an opportunity to add some interesting things there. So there's that. Pretty much the same process as the first layer, just adding a little more. So let's move on. Again, just getting more and more into setting the scene and what's going to be here. At this point, I'm still not 100% sure what the painting's going to be about, what the details of the painting are going to be like. I just wanna feel like I'm in this sort of water environment, and there are these big rock structures, and there's sort of these kind of rock bridges that go over each other, and it's real misty because the waterfall's hitting the bottom and kicking up the mist, and then it's the mist is a good element for the painting because it lets you push back. I can put some fog in to push back some of the rocks in the back. So let's move on. Okay, so this is my the first detailing stage. I'm gonna be honest and tell you that I laid in some textures here. If I zoom in a little bit, you might be able to see it. Just a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit there, and oops. And this isn't because I'm trying to manipulate my design with photos or anything like that. Just to give the canvas a little bit of noise. Did it dictate my design at all? No, not really. Usually when artists do this, to speed up the process a little. So, next. So, I'm actually gonna zoom out and show you guys. I'd actually zoom out a little bit more, but I think you guys probably want to see it a little closer. And then I'll zoom in more when the other layers with more details come in. But so this, oh shoot, let me go back real quick. So let's talk about the first, oh that's not it. Okay, let's talk about this layer, the first stage of details. At this stage, you're still focusing on the very broad, big brush strokes. You're just representing what's there, and that's all really painting is. You're representing what light looks on forms, and how they're gonna interact, how they're gonna create different colors. So on this first detail layer, you're starting to flesh out the environment a little more. You're sort of suggesting what type of rocks this is going to be, or what type of rocks are here, what kind of atmosphere, what kind of materials and plants and things like that. And it doesn't take a lot. As you can see, these little brush strokes right here, these very rough ones, let me show you. These ones right here, they're for the painter to, or from just in my case at least, to remind me and help me remember and sort of get me in the mood of like what type of rocks are these. And to me, these little paint strokes represent different lines in the rocks, and certain rocks will have different patterns and different ways they break and crack through erosion. And so for me, these sort of lines, they kind of put me in the mood of this scene, and they tell me like what sort of rock formations am I looking at, and as I start to fill this in more, I know what type of rocks are in this environment. So it becomes easier to render the rest of the scene, because now I know what sort of rocks these are, what sort of in what ways did they break and erode. Same for this green here. It's moss and grass, and I'm not going in and painting all the moss and grass because, you know, right now I really want to just get the scene down. So this is just they're just visual cues to tell me that, hey, there's moss and grass here. This is a wet environment. Moisture's probably getting up here. This moss and grass is growing here, and this is what it generally looks like. And that's just I'm setting the scene for myself, and right now I'm not beautifying the brush strokes or adding the details. It's just strictly setting the scene. And again, for someone who doesn't paint a lot or hasn't painted a lot yet, this may look extremely rough, but for a painter or someone who paints often, this is it right here. This tells you everything you need to know about this environment to continue rendering. And even if I handed this rough painting to someone right now, someone who has developed their painting skills and they paint often, they would be able to finish this painting and come up with pretty much the same vision I had for it, because at this point it's starting to read. For an artist, they can tell what this painting is about. And if I zoom out even more, you can see it looks almost like a finished painting at this zoom out level. So let's go back in and go to the next stage. Okay. Here, this is a contrast adjustment level. So you can see I added a few brush strokes here and there. Oops. I added a few brush strokes here and there, but really this is just color adjustment. And something I really want to hit on is that there's absolutely no shame in using Photoshop tools or color adjustment or photo textures or any of that when you're painting. You know, a lot of people out there, I think a lot of people will see this as you lacking skill, like you're not good enough to paint it by yourself, so you need all these tricks and whatnot to make a good painting. But that's really not the case at all. It saves time. That's all it really does. And the thing is, when you make a color adjustment and you choose, see, when I choose this color adjustment, it's because I know that looks better, and that says something about your skill. It just helps you get there faster. So at this point, I knew that, you know, it could use a little bit more contrast, and I could go in and I could paint it up and do it the hard way and increase the contrast manually, or I could use a color adjustment layer. So really, you have to have the skill to recognize that you need more contrast in the piece to make that choice in the first place. And even if for whatever reason I can't think of, even if that meant that you weren't good enough to paint it that way in the first place, it doesn't matter. It's about, to me at least, it's really about getting a nice image, and you're still gonna need to understand your fundamentals and all those things to do a successful painting. But hey, any help you can get along the way I think is valid. Okay, just some more. You can see I'm starting to render the rock here. Let's see. I'm starting just to define. I'm brushing in the light where the light's hitting. Adding a little bit of interest back here. I'm really thinking about the space of the piece. So I'm looking at all the areas and thinking, what would make that space more interesting? And to me, you know, a hit of light here to extend this down, to put these little plants in, because this is obviously a moist area, but this is also, you know, it looks like, and it's all made of rocks, so you're not going to get these big big trees or fruit bearing trees, you're probably gonna get these sort of plants that tend to grow on rocky areas, sort of like desert plants almost, but yeah, it's a little bit different because there's probably a lot more moisture here. I darkened that there because I wanted the scene to really feel like this place was in shadow, and the light's coming in from the upper left there. And really just detail adding at this point. Nothing interesting, and there's no really secret tips or brushes or anything like that that'll help you. But just looking at it and sitting there and paint. You wanna represent the rocks and the mist and the rocks far away and the moss and all that. What you really don't want to do is go in and actually paint out a rock. If you do that, your piece will, well, you're gonna kill yourself because that's just gonna take forever. And also your piece will suffer sort of because when you look at a scene, or when you're imagining a scene, or when you go outside and you look at a scene, you don't look at you can't see all the details of the entire scene. You see visual cues that clue you in, that tell you, hey, that's a rock, hey, that's a tree, hey, that's moss, that's, so when you paint, you don't need to paint out everything. You just need to learn the visual cues and then apply them to your canvas so that the viewer can understand. So, and that's really just a matter of practice, and the more you see of it, the better you'll get at it and whatnot. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Right here, I'll zoom in so you can see how I'm representing these rocks. So they almost look like random brush strokes, but a lot of good digital paintings are this way too. If you actually download them and you zoom in, they'll look like this. So yeah, really about just representing the subject. Let's move on. So again, more detail, and as I'm moving forward, I'm refining the light, the pools of light and how they hit, because that's what I feel like, that's what really gives you a feeling of like, oh, that area of the environment is cool. Kind of like if you were on a hike or something and you saw a really nice shady area. You look at that and you're like, hey, that looks cool, and when you walk under it, you feel the instant temperature change. It's really nice if you can show that in a painting or make it feel that way. So in these areas, I'm trying to make it feel like if you were to walk under this would feel cool. I added this building. I'm hinting at some buildings back here because I felt like the painting needed some focus, sort of a subject, because this is, I guess this alone would be okay. I just thought it'd add a lot to the painting if I could add some sort of architecture, or something to hint. And at first I actually was thinking I'd put a water mill back here. Kind of one of those things that generates electricity with water. And this is a big waterfall, so that would be perfect. I was actually going to make it a water mill with this really big water wheel. And I actually experimented with that, and I didn't save it on a layer, but there wasn't much experimenting done. I decided to veer off from it, you'll see later. I went to go take a break, and then I came back, and this just looks like a mushroom. It just looks dumb, so I decided to change that later on. Sorry for all the ums and the ands, and I'm not really used to making these videos, and I'm actually strangely nervous right now. So hopefully you guys will hopefully that won't bother you too badly. Next. Okay, so I decided to give it this oriental theme just because it seems like these waterfalls and serene sceneries didn't go along with the oriental theme. I don't know, it just seemed alright. So I added this, and at this point I was thinking maybe it's a shrine of some sort, but I still wasn't sure where I was going. This is a personal painting. It's not a painting for a client of some sort, so I didn't really have any specs I had to follow. It was pretty much just whatever I wanted, and it was just a painting for fun. So I was just kind of figuring it out as I go. It might have been good for me to think it through a little bit more, But a lot of times when I start these paintings, I don't really even know what they're gonna be myself, especially if they're personal paintings. Usually with client paintings, I spend a little bit more time thinking about, you know, what it's gonna be like, and then I'll send in the roughs, and the client will tell me where I should go from there. But yeah, for these personal paintings, sometimes I plan them out, sometimes I don't. This is one where I didn't plan anything out. On this next layer, I just added a little bit of fog, because that area right there is right next to that waterfall, and a lot of that mist is going to be coming up and add this sort of atmosphere. So here you can see I fleshed that area out more. Now at this point, I was thinking that this was actually some sort of vacation or sightseeing spot. So maybe this shrine here is an ancient part of history or something like that, and people will come here when they're on vacation or when they're going sightseeing, and they'll maybe pay a fee and they'll get to go in and see this huge gate and go into this building and see how I don't know, maybe how the shrine used to operate in the old days, or something like that. Maybe see how the shrine used to operate in the old days. Here I was thinking maybe these are rope bridges, and people can somehow they can get up here and just watch the waterfall right down them, and they can look up and there'd just be this massive waterfall. And so these sort of narratives that I make up for my paintings, and I know a lot of artists will do it too, it really helps, because it puts you in a world, so that so that you can be in the world, and you know, if you feel like you're in it, you just painting it is just so much easier. I'm not sure exactly why, but it makes sense. The other thing is that if you have a backstory for it, all the details you add, and all the new things you add, all the ideas that you have to add to this world, is going to be based off that story, and there's going to be some consistency. One of the really big pitfalls, I think, for young artists or artists who haven't done this much, is that they just add whatever they want, and that's fine, but your viewer is not going to be able to understand the painting very well. It's going to look somewhat amateurish, because there's just going to be something that stands out, that doesn't feel like it's part of the world. And sort of like how you're watching a movie and suddenly something really outrageous is said, or something that just makes absolutely no sense, and it completely destroys the plot, and then you're kind of taken out of the movie experience, and you just go, oh, that's just dumb. Sort of the same thing. So, you know, if I were to just add like a random motorcycle right here or something, yes, it's possible that a guy on a motorcycle could be riding towards this shrine, but that says something to the viewer, because why did it have to be a motorcycle? You know, why wasn't it something else? What is so significant about, you know, a motorcycle being there? And if you have a narrative, if this is in some sort of story context, that could make sense. But I'm doing this painting as just a standalone painting, and if I were to just put something like that in, the viewer would be really confused. So, sorry, that was a really long rant about why it's good to have a backstory, but it really is one of the biggest pitfalls. Okay, I think this is the last layer up here, and that's just to add a little bit of atmosphere here, and make this actually look like a waterfall, because before it didn't look, you know, it didn't quite look like a waterfall. I also added these little characters, just little people, and of course if you zoom in, they don't look like people at all, but at this level, the level that the painting is going to be viewed at, they look like, you know, they're people making their way towards the shrine. And every detail you put in your painting matters. Like these two here, I decided to group this together because maybe this is a father taking his daughter to sightsee and learn about the ancient history of their culture. Every bit of the painting is a chance to improve and to really hit home with the narrative. So it's good to be thoughtful about your painting and be very intentional. And I think it's easy to just say, well, it's art and it can be whatever and I can paint whatever. And yeah, that's true, But I find that if I have consistency and there's some sort of story and narrative and everything's done intentionally, I always come up with a much better piece of work or design. So that's it, that's the end. Hopefully I didn't bore you guys too much. I just realized now that I've been talking for a very long time, and maybe not the best idea for a first video, but hopefully someone found it useful. I'm gonna work on it and I'll get better at speaking and organizing these videos. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section, and I'm sure I'll get to them because my channel's new and I won't be overwhelmed. I'll leave my DeviantArt and my website in the description. Thanks again, guys, and have a great day.